return later on in the season. But this was a move that I saw happening immediately when I received the notification telling me that Marcus Peters had been traded to the Baltimore Ravens. I knew exactly what the Los Angeles Rams were doing. I knew that they were getting all the cards together and they were getting ready to make a splash trade for Jalen Ramsey. And lo and behold, just a few hours later, that's exactly what ended up happening. So, it's exciting. Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald on the same side of the ball on the same team. It's exciting. It makes headlines. It's flashy. They're both stars. It's Los Angeles. It's Hollywood. It's the land of stars. This was more of a business move than a football move to me, because you have to take a look at what's going on in Los Angeles. Despite losing early in the playoffs, you still have the Dodgers there. The Angels just made a splash hire, and Joe Madden, now they're there with Mike Trout. They could potentially end up landing a superstar free agent when the MLB season finally comes to an end. So that could be another studded duo out there. You have what the Clippers did this offseason, signing Kawhi Leonard, trading for Paul George. The Lakers having LeBron James and trading for Anthony Davis. I mean, you see what's going on in Los Angeles right now. And to me, it's all about relevance. This is all about them wanting to remain relevant. Because let's take this into account. The Rams 7 games ago, they were playing in the Super Bowl. They were representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Now they've gone on a 3-game losing streak. And in their last home game against the San Francisco 49ers, that was a stadium that was full of 49ers fans. It's not something that you saw last year. Not something you saw early on in this season. But this is Hollywood and this is Los Angeles for you. There are many other things to do besides go to football games and go to sporting events anyway. So you have to do everything you can to keep that relevance there and to keep that relevance up. Because if they end up losing this weekend, which I don't believe they will do because the Atlanta Falcons are an absolute abysmal mess, but I will talk about that on another day. Right. I believe the Rams will get back on their winning ways this weekend. But if they were to lose this weekend, it would almost feel like the season is over because the Seattle Seahawks are playing strong right now with Russell Wilson leading the way. The 49ers are undefeated, and they're the real deal, and they're more than likely going to remain undefeated this weekend when they travel to Washington to take on the Redskins. You have the NFC North Division as a whole. Not 2, not 3, but all 4 teams who can make a case for if all 4 teams are not going to end up being in the playoffs. But they can make some noise around that situation. They can all be a viable contender. Even if somebody gets left out, they can make it hard for somebody else. So you have that division there. You have 2 teams in the NFC South with the Saints and the Panthers right now. The Panthers being able to find somewhat of a resurgence since Kyle Allen has taken over from the injured Cam Newton. So there's not a lot to go around. When I say that, there's not too much room for error anymore. Right. You can't lose too many games in the NFC. This is a loaded conference all the way around. This isn't like the AFC that's up for grabs right now. Right. I mean, I'm just going to bring this into play right now because I'm not sure if everyone's updated on the news right now. Patrick Mahomes left tonight's Thursday night football game with a knee injury. Andy Reid says that he's going to be okay. Patrick Mahomes told Andy Reid he's going to be okay. But, you never know what the MRI results are going to come out to be. And I'd just be pretty concerned just based on the fact of hearing that he was only in the x-ray room for 2 minutes before he immediately being ruled out for the remainder of the game. And you have the Oakland Raiders who are playing well in that division. Denver's playing better in recent weeks, even though they don't look so good tonight. The Chargers could get a spark going pretty soon as well if they get more healthier. There's more to go around right there is what I'm trying to say. As opposed to the NFC West, which I would have to say is the best division in football right now, right there with the NFC North. I'm right there with them in the NFC North for the best divisions in football. And you also now can't turn a blind eye to Arizona. Even though they beat 2 bad teams, they've won 2 straight games, and Kyler Murray looks like he's getting it, Scott. He looks like he's getting it, Louis. He's getting better week in and week out. So you can't turn a blind eye to that team either, because even though they might not be a playoff team, they could play spoiler to somebody. Now, long term, the Jacksonville Jaguars won this trade. They absolutely got a haul for Jalen Ramsey.
Now,
I'm not so sure that there are too many. I'm not sure if there are any players in this league besides quarterback and defensive players who can wreak havoc and have an impact on the game to determine the outcome who are worth 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick. I thought they'd get a first and a third for him, but they were able to get 2 first-round picks for him. I believe long-term Jacksonville wins this trade.
And that's funny. You raise an interesting point there because it made me think of this. Do you think this trade signals a growing trust in Jacksonville that Tom Coughlin and Doug Marrone have in Minshew, and that they maybe use these 2 first-round picks in 20 and 21 to kind of maybe draft somebody up to say shore up the offensive line, maybe give him another offensive weapon at either receiver or running back? Do you think that, or do you think that's just another trade to build for the future and not really with Minshew in mind?
Let me answer that one for you, but I want to go over a couple things before I get to that, so hold your thought on that. Okay, number one, you talked about the 49ers fans being, there were quite a few at the Coliseum. Well, right down the road, there were a lot of Steeler fans, okay, with the Chargers, so transplants are what they are. And if you go to Florida and Arizona, you'll find there are a lot of transplants that fill a lot of those stadiums as well. So, in warmer weather climates, you're seeing the transplants outnumber the actual home crowd itself. I just want to get that point out there because you're right, there's a high competition for the LA dollar. Now, let's go to what you just talked about, Lewis and Xavier. Since I am a lot closer to that situation in Jacksonville than most of you guys are anyhow, Doug Marrone is squarely on the hot seat. I don't care what anybody says. They don't get in the playoffs or they're mediocre, he's gone. Mm-hmm. They're not going to say anything, but I believe that's what will happen. Number one, as far as the haul that Jacksonville got for that trade, I'll bring up an old fellow by the name of Red Auerbach, okay? When Bob McAdoo got traded to the Detroit Pistons and they added a lot of players before your guys' time, and Dick Vitale was a taker for that trade, never got another job in the NBA again because he made that trade. The Rams got fleeced. Period. Okay, Coughlin was going to hold out to get those 2 first-round picks, and the fact they got a 4th, how else do you say it? He got waxed, fleeced, whatever adjective the Road Jets Theodorus has, they got fleeced. And now, to answer your question, okay, I don't know whether you get a wide receiver, but do you go ahead and find another shutdown corner? Possibly. Do you find another good massive defensive lineman that will put pressure on the quarterback? Probably. So I could see where line help could be on either end because of a pick like this. So, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that the Jacksonville Jaguars, they don't need a quarterback anyhow. They're already set up there. Fournette's a pretty good running back. Do they have another running back in the event that they need some depth at that position? Yeah, but again, I personally, unless there's a great running back I'd be convinced on in the first round, they could find a running back in rounds 2 through 4 easily. That's what I think, Xavier. Anything you want to add to that?
Yes. You say rounds 2 through 4. I say rounds 5 through 7 and even undrafted. You find running back all throughout the draft and even after the draft.
True.
It's amazing what you can find with those talents. And not just running backs, but wide receivers and perimeter players on the football field in general. And I'll answer Lewis's question by saying this. Yes, that's exactly what I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars end up doing. They end up building their team around Gardner Minshew. They shore up both lines on both sides of the ball. They get some other perimeter players out there, whether it's going to be a shutdown corner, whether it's another wide receiver, maybe a backup running back. I'm not sure what their plans are right there. But that's exactly what I believe they end up doing. And that's exactly what the Los Angeles Rams should have focused on doing with Jared Goff, because if we can see that offensive line is deteriorating and he's not the same player, and he doesn't look like he's worth the money that they paid him before the season started right now. He's coming off of a game where he only threw for 78 yards. That's alarming to me. And see, right now, they invested most of their offensive line in a 38-year-old Andrew Whitworth. Okay, eventually he was going to start showing his age. Now he is starting to show his age. You had an offensive lineman who was injured on Sunday, and he's now on injured reserve for the rest of the season. Yes, we understand it. They did this for a business move. They did this because they're in California. They're in Los Angeles. They want to remain relevant. It's all about competition. It's all about garnering the fans' interest. It's all about putting butts in seats. Let's just call it what it is. That's exactly what it's about. But long term, I don't believe believe that this is a move they're going to end up regretting. Because here's something else that you have to take into account. Todd Gurley is also on the decline. You don't think they could have went out and found another running back with one of those picks that they just gave away to the Jacksonville Jaguars too?
Right.
So there's a lot that they could have just did there. And for Marcus Peters, all he got back in return was a 5th-round pick. Now, I'm not saying Marcus Peters is a shutdown corner because obviously we've been watching the guy get exposed week in and week out. And like I said, I'm not so sure he really improves Baltimore's secondary. Maybe some of his flaws can be hid behind the fact that he's already playing behind a loaded secondary up there. But he's worth a little more than a 5th-round pick to me. I thought they would have at least been able to get a 5th and a 6th in return for him. So you didn't really get anything in return for Marcus Peters, and you gave a haul away for Jalen Ramsey. And this has to be noted too, Lewis and Scott. Deion Sanders came out and said that he does not believe that Jalen will be happy in Los Angeles long term. He believes that best this is a deal for right now before Jalen gets tired of being in Los Angeles. And the state taxes have a lot to do with it because you're leaving Florida where there are no state taxes.
Right.
And you're going to California where there are massive state taxes.
Oh, yeah.
This is Deion Sanders who's saying this. I'm not saying that because Deion Sanders is arguably the greatest cornerback of all time. I'm saying that because Deion Sanders is a mentor figure for Jalen Ramsey. So he probably talks to Jalen Ramsey on a weekly basis anyway. That's something I would take into account because I know what Deion Sanders means to Jalen Ramsey.
Right.
I know what that relationship is like, at least from the outside looking in. I know that he is a mentor figure for that young man.
All right,
so that's something that I would take into account.
Let me add a couple of other points, okay, about what you talked about with the running back and how late you can get them. Let's not lose sight of the fact that the Denver Broncos won Super Bowl 32 and 33 with Elway with a guy by the name of Terrell Davis, who was a late-round pick. So you're right, you can find him, and I've written many stories about hidden gems late in the draft. And we don't have time to get into all of them or undrafted free agents for sure. So we'll make that point. Doesn't hurt the fact that Deion Sanders, I believe, played in San Francisco, didn't he? Mm-hmm. So he knows how high the taxes in the state of California are.
I believe right now they're like 13.3% state tax.
All right. But, we've talked about that subject well. I'll be curious to see how it... But I think all I'll just say is go back to my original point, that the Jacksonville Jaguars made out like bandits getting the return. And kudos to Tom Coughlin for holding his price and getting what he wanted and then some. So we're going to go on to something else before we wrap up the show. We'll go a little bit longer than we normally do. I want to make sure we get everything in, okay? We're going to talk...
Well, Scott, I have one thing I want to add to what you said about Doug Marrone before we move on.
Sure.
I'm in 100% agreement with you. Even if I don't believe they're going to make the playoffs, because even though the Colts don't have Andrew Luck, Jacoby Brissett has done enough to hold his own, and Deshaun Watson and the Texans' offense just looks special. It looks like the offensive line is finally coming together for him. The defense is doing what they're supposed to do. So I don't believe they're going to make the playoffs, and I believe Doug Marrone will be outed immediately after the season. And I believe he'll be replaced with somebody with the likes of maybe a Mike McCarthy or someone like that, maybe even possibly a Jim Harbaugh, depending on what happens with Michigan for the remainder of the season. We'll just have to see. But I'm in 100% agreement with you. He is on the hot seat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm close to the situation. I listen to Marrone's press conferences all the time. I worked with him in the draft, so I pretty much know what Doug is. He's right now a manager, not so much a head coach, who listens to the people upstairs. But in the end, wins and losses are what it's all about. Whether the Jaguars have enough of them remains to be seen. But, yeah, I've always thought about Mike McCarthy. Jim Harbaugh, well, that's interesting. We'll see how that plays out. Now, a subject that Lewis is all too familiar with, how do we not have a show with you, Xavier, without talking Lewis's sport? Because I know I'll probably never get a word in for the next 10 minutes or so that we have to go. But let's talk about the baseball playoffs, and then I want to talk about the Joe Mann hiring. But why don't you two talk about the baseball playoffs real quick? Obviously, one has been decided with the Nationals going, but now you have a series going on, and then we'll wrap it up with a couple more managerial notes. Go ahead, Lewis, lead off.
So, as far as the Madden hire goes, I do like it. He is, unfortunately right now, in the wake of Tyler Skaggs' unfortunate death at the outset of July,